Hey, how's everybody doing? I hope you all are doing well. So, we just wrapped up UFC Vegas 66 Cannonier versus Strickland. And I figured there's no better way to keep up this MMA content over this little 3-week break that we have, 4-week break from MMA, UFC cards, and stuff like that, than to give you guys a post UFC Vegas 66 matchmaker. Who should the winners face? Now, I'm not going to do every winner and every loser, because I feel like maybe I could do one video on who the losers should compete against and one video on who the winners should compete against. I think that would be a better option than to just put everything in one video. So we're going to do the winners of UFC Vegas 66 and who they should go up against following the event. We're going to start off with the main event where Jared Cannonier got a 49-46 split decision over Sean Strickland. I thought Strickland won the fight. Pretty comfortably, in my opinion. Now, maybe I have to go back and watch it, but either way, it was a very high-level fight. Both guys were extremely closely competitive for all 5 rounds, back and forth, very, very, walking on eggshells. One mistake and somebody could get caught. Really good defensively and offensively from both men. I feel like Strickland had better offense, but Cannonier had more power, which may have swayed the judges in terms of damage. But when it comes to the main event, I think Jared Cannonier should take on the winner of the upcoming bout between Roman Dolidze and Marvin Vettori. I think Marvin Vettori versus Dolidze is a great fight. We just saw Dolidze come in and get that TKO in the calf slicer position over Jack the Joker Hermanson. And now he's going to be going up against former title challenger in Marvin the Italian Dream Vettori, or the Italian Dream Marvin Vettori. Now, going off predictions for that fight, I actually lean ever so slightly towards Dolidze because he has that jiu-jitsu threat that Vettori can, get exploited with in their contest. I think Vettori definitely has more volume. He has the better striking, and if it stays on the feet, I would edge out the former title challenger in Vettori to pick apart Dolidze on the feet. But the power, the jiu-jitsu threat, and the submission grappling game of Dolidze really would have me favoring him in terms of a prediction. Now, we'll obviously get to those predictions when we get closer to the event, but I like Jared Cannonier versus the winner of Dolidze and Marvin Vettori. I just feel like with the current standings of the UFC's middleweight division and the uncertainty behind what's going to happen next with Adesanya, Pereira, Whitaker, and Costa, that this is the perfect fight to make. So sign me up. First up, Cannonier versus the winner of Dolidze and Vettori. When it comes to the co-main event of the evening, I think Arman Tsarukyan should battle the former interim lightweight champion and former title challenger in top contender Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Now look, when it comes to the co-main event of UFC Vegas 66 with Tsarukyan and Ismagulov, I thought Ismagulov was going to have a much easier time striking with Arman on the feet. And even when the fight was at striking range, Arman was a lot faster than Demir. And he wasn't even getting hit with the crisp jab of Ismagulov that much. A lot of the times it was Arman actually landing the jab of his own and then pairing that up with the lead left high kick or the switch kick to the body. But the story of this fight was the constant wrestling, the chaining together of takedown attempts, and the relentless pressure that Tsarukyan put on Ismagulov for the 15 minutes. He got a 30-27 unanimous decision and really dominated in a fight where I thought it was going to be a lot closer, and I think a lot of other people did as well. But I think that Poirier is the perfect matchup for Tsarukyan. I know a lot of people are going to come out and say that Beneil Dariush should go up against Arman Tsarukyan next, but coming off that dominant victory over Mateusz Gamrot, I feel like Dariush has a title shot in his future, and I don't think he's going to take a fight with a guy like Arman, who is a very dangerous matchup and doesn't really do much in terms of boosting his rankings and status in that UFC's lightweight division. Arman's a dangerous fight. He's only 25 years old or 26 years old, born in 1996, and he has now 22 fights in professional MMA and holds a record of 19-3. I think that Poirier is a guy who would be up for the challenge, and I think that Poirier versus Tsarukyan is a very interesting fight. I think Poirier would definitely have the boxing advantage, the pressure advantage, and the power advantage, but the speed advantage with the kicking game and the constant pressure, wrestling, and top control that Tsarukyan possesses, I believe would give Poirier a lot of trouble, as we've seen in recent fights and in recent memory. When it comes to Poirier, he has a lot of trouble with very high-level wrestlers. Even with Michael Chandler, he was getting taken down multiple times in that fight until Chandler made one mistake, gave up his back, and got submitted. But when it comes down to it, I like Poirier versus Sarukian, and I think it's a very interesting stylistic matchup. I'm not exactly sure who I would favor going into a prediction if the fight was to be made official, but I think I'd have to lean towards the young gun in Sarukian to actually be able to pressure, take down, out-control, and beat up Dustin Poirier in the grappling aspects of the fight. On the feet, I think Poirier would beat up Arman with his boxing, land the good combinations, and constantly look to land the check right hook to the straight left hand, and then try to pressure Arman up against the cage with a barrage of punches. It's a great fight. It's a very interesting stylistic matchup, and it's one that I think UFC fans all around the world would be chomping at the bit to see. So give me Sarukian versus Dustin Poirier for the next fight to make after UFC Vegas 66. Up next is going to be a battle of people who competed on this card in the UFC's flyweight division between Starboy Manel Kape and Amir Albazi. Now, Albazi got that third round TKO victory over Alessandro Costa, who was coming off the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series with his UFC debut. I'm actually very impressed with Costa from what I've seen so far, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for him inside the premier mixed martial arts organization in the world. And when it comes to Manel Kape, he got that unanimous decision victory over David Dvorak, even dropping Dvorak throughout the contest up against the cage with a body shot. Manel Kape is on a 3-fight win streak, and he's looked very, very solid in every one of his UFC fights, even in the UFC loss that he has in the decision to Mateus Nicolau. Sorry, the name escaped me for a second. Even against Nicolau, he looked good, but I did pick Nicolau to defeat Manel Kape in that contest. But when it comes to this fight, I just think it makes perfect sense. Albazi's a threat on the feet with beautiful boxing and his ability to dictate the range, but also has a beautiful wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and submission game that we've seen him showcase inside the UFC. And Manel Kape, with his speed, elusiveness, footwork, ability to switch stances and explode into your face with vicious strikes that can knock you out, it just makes for a perfect fight. I think this is the definition of a firefight in the UFC's flyweight division. And I like Albazi versus Kape. I think Albazi would have the advantage with the grappling and jiu-jitsu side and also have a little bit of the power advantage. But I think the speed of Manel Kape paired with the power that he possesses in his strikes and the explosiveness would make this fight a pick'em when it comes to the odds makers. I love the fight. I love everything about it. And I think this is a fan favorite matchup and one that would really put the flyweight division on notice, or I guess put fans on notice of the flyweight division who really don't pay too much attention to this weight class to begin with. So give me Amir Albazi versus Manel Kape for the next fight to make for both of these men after UFC Vegas 66. When it comes to Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres, I think he should take on Edson Jr. Barbosa. Barbosa's coming off of that decision loss to Bryce Thug Nasty Mitchell and is looking to come back into the featherweight division, I would assume, pretty soon. And with Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres, he lived up to his nickname after a beautiful left cross into the same side left high kick cracked Juicy J right on the chin and knocked him out in round 1 of the contest this past weekend. Look, Bruce Leroy Alex Caceres has a very deceiving record, and that's what led me to pick Erosa going into this matchup. And he shut me up pretty quick after that combination landed and clattered the jaw of Julian Erosa, and he knocked him out in the first round. Caceres is 6-1 in his last 7 fights, with his only loss coming to Super Sadiq Youssef, and that is not anything to be ashamed of. I think that Edson Barbosa's speed and Muay Thai technical ability, paired with the traditional martial arts karate and taekwondo style of Bruce Leroy Alex Caceres, would make for a fan favorite matchup and just the perfect fight to make at the current standings in the featherweight division. It would be pairing number 14 and 15 in the divisional rankings against each other and give Edson Barbosa a chance to crack his way closer to that top 10 and give Caceres a chance to get a signature win on his record, which is something I think he desperately needs at this point, being an MMA veteran like he is. Barbosa versus Caceres screams fireworks. It screams impact, it screams craziness, and it screams a fan favorite and fun matchup. And it's the perfect fight to make in my opinion, so sign me up. Give me Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres versus Edson Jr. Barbosa for the next fight to make after UFC Vegas 66. Drew Dober versus Jalen Turner should be next. Turner's ranked number 10 in the division and is coming off of that very impressive first round submission victory over Brad Quake Riddell. Now, Dober called for this fight after his win over Bobby Green in a comeback sort of win at UFC Vegas 66. It was a fight where I feel like Bobby Green was running away with it and on his way to cruising to a unanimous decision victory. That was until he caught Green up against the cage, landed a right hook into the overhand left, and caught Bobby Green's shoulder roll defense slacking and knocked him out cold. Drew Dober is now on a 3-fight win streak, and if he was to be matched up with Jalen Turner, it would give two of the streaking contenders in the lightweight division a chance to really stake their claim to who should be closer to the top. Now, Drew Dober may have slayed a king, but now he's got to make sure he can trap a tarantula. So give me this fight next. I love everything about it. Drew Dober versus Jalen Turner is perfect in every sense of the word. And if Dober gets past Turner, he's on his way to the throne. Said Nurmagomedov impressed the hell out of me. He was able to get a comeback-style submission victory over Said Yakub Kakramanov with a guillotine choke submission. It was a fight where not only he was losing, but was getting dominated by Kakramanov, taken down over and over, controlled, and even when he was able to get back up to his feet, he was just pressured and taken down again and again. It looked to be a fight where it could have been a 30-26 unanimous decision on the side of Kakramanov, but Nurmagomedov kept attacking the front choke, which he showcased in other fights before, including his first-round submission victory over Cody Stamann prior to this fight. But he was able to come back and lock up that guillotine choke submission when Kakramanov was really just fading away. And the perfect fight to make next after this impressive victory would be a battle against the number 13 ranked bantamweight and really fan favorite and polarizing star in this division in Adrian Yanez, or Mini Masvidal. This would give Yanez a chance to go up against a very decorated grappler, but not only that, a guy in Said Nurmagomedov who likes to showcase his striking more than his wrestling. And a striking matchup between these two, with the kicking game of Nurmagomedov and the boxing game of Adrian Yanez, is just amazing, and I think it would be a very, very interesting matchup. Could Yanez close the distance, get into boxing range, and light up Nurmagomedov with his fast combinations? Or would Nurmagomedov mix in his wrestling, lock up his submissions to threaten Yanez, and then use his kicking game from outside range to dictate the fight on the feet? Either way, I love everything about this matchup, and I think it's the right fight to make. It would move whoever wins this fight up the rankings closer to the top 10, and it just makes all the sense in the world. So give me Said Nurmagomedov going up against Adrian Yanez. And before we move on, no, he is not related to the Nurmagomedov family, but they have the same last name. And for the final fight to make after UFC Vegas 66, it's going to come in the form of the newly formed middleweight, former light heavyweight, in Michael Oleksiejczuk, coming off of that beautiful first-round knockout victory over Cody Brundage, going up against the man who he called out in Chris the Action Man Curtis. Now, Curtis is coming off of that knockout victory at UFC 282 against Joaquin Buckley, and I think Oleksiejczuk versus Chris Curtis is perfect. And it's not only because he called out Curtis after his win, it's the fact that both of these guys are not even going to entertain the grappling game of MMA. They are going to stand on the feet, and they are going to trade with each other. And with Oleksiejczuk coming down from light heavyweight to the 185-pound middleweight division, he possesses power that not a lot of middleweights can handle. If he lands his hands on you, he can hurt anybody in this division, and I fully do believe that. He's got a really awkward way of closing the distance, but once he starts to land his punches, he can knock just about anybody out. And Chris Curtis may have a more slow, methodical base with a little bit more of a traditional boxing style mixed into his game, but if he lands on your chin, he can knock you out as well. And this would be the battle of who could touch the chin first. And Oleksiejczuk versus Curtis is fan favorite. It's a firefight, and they're going to bang for 15 minutes, and somebody is going out in this contest. If they make this fight, I can guarantee you that somebody will get knocked out. Oleksiejczuk's power, like I said, moving down from light heavyweight to middleweight is going to be a factor that I don't think Curtis has faced yet in his UFC career. Because although Joaquin Buckley has power, he doesn't have nearly the amount of knockout power and the ability to shut off the lights that Michael Oleksiejczuk does, or Michał Oleksiejczuk. So give me Oleksiejczuk versus Chris the Action Man Curtis, because I guarantee you one thing. There's going to be action from bell to bell. And that's going to be it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the fights that I put together and the fights that I think should be made after UFC Vegas 66. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and land a spinning crescent kick on the notification bell so you don't miss any uploads from the premier mixed martial arts channel on YouTube.